Well, hopefully this one will be shorter than the last one. But as the title suggests, this all happened when I was 4. And it started off at, I think it was a football game. And the only thing I can remember doing different that day was I ate a lot of cotton candy. Too much, apparently. I don't know if that's what caused it, but that's the only thing I can think of that I did different that day. And also, that's why I don't like cotton candy these days. But long story short, I ended up getting really sick, like violently ill. And so I ended up going to the hospital, and well, let's I don't know if that counts as in media res, but I should start off with saying I didn't even know I got the spinal tap until this decade, actually, because I was talking about something with my family. I think it was like my weird complex with needles, which is what this is going to be about, because I don't remember, like I said, I don't remember getting the spinal tap. And so I was talking about why I always get weird looks whenever I have to get blood drawn or I get a shot or something, and I watch them do it, and they always give me weird looks because they expect me to, like everyone else, not want to see it. But I have this weird thing where I think I get even more anxiety if I don't watch them do it, because as we find out, they don't always do it pretty correctly. Some of those phlebotomists aren't the best. So back to the hospital when I was 4. So we get there, and I don't know what happened, but I'm guessing maybe the phlebotomist didn't show up that day or something, because what I do remember from that incident was I guess I was in some kind of operating room or something, because it almost, like, my memory is like almost like a dentist office. You know how they have the lights above you at the dentist office? That's what I remember. I remember this like blinding light, and they couldn't get a good stick in. Like I said, I guess the phlebotomist didn't show up that day. So what I remember is spending minutes just having them jab me over and over again, and me just screaming bloody murder the whole time because I'm a 4-year-old getting stabbed by needles repeatedly. And so I remember at one point hearing, like, wherever I was in that room, behind me and to the right, I can remember hearing a nurse or one of the helpers or whoever, like, starting to cry, actually. Because well, I imagine hearing a 4-year-old screaming for his life is not the easiest thing to sit through. And so I remember hearing her cry and saying, "I'm sorry, I can't take this anymore, I have to leave." And then I remember because it wasn't just one person, it was like multiple people who were trying to get a good stick, and multiple people failed. And so I remember at one point, it was a dude that was trying to get his stick in at that point, and I just remember him just really sad and being like, "I'm sorry, little buddy, I know it hurts, but we have to do this." And so that's what I remember from that incident. So the fact that I don't remember the spinal tap, or because I don't know if my parents were right or not, but they said that some kind of fluid had to be extracted from my back. And as far as I know, I'm pretty sure spinal tap is one of the only things where you get something extracted from your back that's a fluid. And so the fact that I don't remember that, but I remember the needle parts, I guess kind of gives you a reference as to how painful spinal taps must be. Because it's one of those things where it's like you hear about repressed childhood memories and whatnot. And so I never really like had one of those that I can think of where I like remember it. And then like in my head, you know, hearing about it, you kind of expect it to be like one of those like movie flashbacks where once you know about it, you suddenly like the memory gets unlocked. But that didn't happen. Like my parents told me that I got that, and I was like, what? What do you mean? I got a spinal tap. And even knowing that it happened, I still can't remember it. Which is kind of interesting. But I do remember the needles. And so if I had to guess, that's probably why I have the weird complex with needles that I have today. Where I get more anxious if I can't see them do it. Because sometimes they don't do it the best. Like, I remember whenever I donate plasma, there's one time where the phlebotomist, she like messed up. And then instead of like taking it out and trying it again, she just kind of like dug around and like moved the needle up and down in my arm, and I'm watching it happen, and I'm like, it didn't hurt. And like I said, needles don't really bother me these days because of what happened. But I was like, that is kind of weird. That I feel like some people would like freak out if they had that happen to them. And then I remember another time where she stuck it in. This is a different plasma donation center. I was living somewhere else. And she stuck it in. And then we were both like, that's not right. And she was like, oh, I think I went too far. And so apparently, I don't know if this is right, but based on what she said, I'm guessing she went into my vein and out the other side. And so she just pulled it back a little bit, and then it worked fine. And then I remember the first time I donated plasma, I don't know how that works, like the intricacies and the minutia of it, but is one of those things where they like rate your veins like a stoplight where it's like red, yellow, or green veins. And because I was pretty vascular back then because I was working in a warehouse, and so I guess it was a new lady. She like saw my vascularity and just immediately gave me green veins as a rating. And then when the phlebotomist actually showed up, she was like, who rated your veins? And then, excuse me. And she was like, because I'm guessing they change the needle size depending on what kind of veins you get or something like that. But she was like, you're going to get a hematoma, you know that, right? And, well, I'm a curious cat. So I was like, is that a bad thing? What is that? And she's like, it's just a fancy word for a bruise. And I was like, can I see it? And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah. I mean, if it's not anything bad, I want to see what that means so I can have like a reference for the future. She was like, sure. And so she went and she ended up getting someone. I think it was the new girl or one of her friends or something. And they came to watch with me. And so she's like, are you ready? And then I look, and I'm looking at my vein while she's doing it, and she's like, and I was like, yeah, do it. And then she stuck the needle in, and then just immediately just a giant like bubble. It was like on my bicep because it was like in the crook of my elbow. And it just immediately like swelled up, and she's like, that's a hematoma. And I was like, oh, that's kind of awesome, but that does look bad. And then nothing happened. She was like, all right, now you saw it. And then just switched to my left arm, and then everything was fine. I don't know what it is, but it seems like my left arm is better for donating plasma than my right arm. I don't know what it is about the veins or whatever, but there's that story. That's kind of like 2 or 3 stories in one, so there you go.